Well, it seems like UT Austin has made yet another mistake. I saw some post on Reddit. I thought it was really weird. I wasn't 100% sure if this was actually something that was happening, but there was a bunch of international students that were reporting that their applications were canceled, like actually canceled, not like they were rejected and they didn't realize it or they got the wait list and like didn't know what that was, but like just flat out canceled. And so I saw like literally dozens of posts on the main applying to college subreddit. I posted my own thread on the UT Austin admissions subreddit just to be like, hey, like what's going on? I asked a bunch of questions like, did you apply test optional? If you needed to submit the TOEFL or IELTS, did you submit that because you still had to do your English proficiency exams? If they applied by the deadline, if their application was reading as like under review from the time they applied from December 1 until now. And there was a few students that answered like, yeah, like everything was in review, complete, no problem. And then for completely unexplained, absolutely no reason why a bunch of international applicants. Like I'm laughing not because it sucks, like it's really crappy, but I just can't like wrap my mind around the level of incompetence. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but absolutely a lack of accountability and transparency. Like it's just like completely ridiculous, right? It's not just the $80 application fee that the students are spending, but it's just the amount of time and stress that is involved with doing this application. Like UT Austin is not an easy application because they have a unique SAA plus three short answers that are specific to the university, which is like fine if you're a Texas resident and UT is your top school, but for international students, it's just like a ton of work. And it gets under my skin so much when not just UT, this is universities everywhere where they say language like student centered or we want to empower you or we're trying to be transparent and like holistic review accountability and all this just like it's just bullshit. Like it's just nonsense. Like I'm writing this new book, Surviving the College Admissions Madness, and my key thesis is that elite universities do not care about you. That's the argument that I'm making in my book. It's about 500 pages now. All the different reasons why universities, especially ones in the top 50, just simply don't care about their applicants because they know that they're always going to get a sufficient number of students who are applying, and so they don't have to provide good customer service. There were students that were reporting like there's a phone number on the cancellation notification that says call this number if you like have any questions. Well, like students were calling the number, and then as soon as they said, "Hey, I'm an international applicant that was canceled," they would either get hung up on directly or they would be like transferred to another office and then put on hold for like over an hour, and then just disappear into the ethos. And like even I've seen this on many university websites, and UT Austin is no different. They're starting to use these chat bots, like the kinds of things where you like send a message and it's like 99% of the time not an actual human being, and then it's like not at all helpful at all. And so it's like these universities are having like record numbers of applications that they love to brag about and tell everybody, and then they don't have like the corresponding amount of staff to actually like evaluate and adjudicate and issue admissions decisions. Like all the decisions should have been out on March 1st already, and then they send an update like into February. Hey, like we need a little bit more time to evaluate applications because of this like obviously like disruptive and epic ice storm that happened that's made all the power and water go out in many places around the state. But then they just like canceled applications. Like that has nothing to do with an ice storm. And so you take a convenient public catastrophe and then you use it as a rationalization to justify your own like again lack of accountability and follow through. And so for all the students, international students out there that like submitted this application, like I'm sorry that you wasted your time. Like usually I can say like even if you got an unfavorable admissions decision, at least you received like a fair evaluation that your application is read. But these applicants, like they don't know if their application was read. They have no idea if they got a fair evaluation. Like there is no possibility to appeal. Yeah, it's exasperating and it's infuriating. And again, that's why I'm writing this book, Surviving the College Admissions Madness, just because like I'm tired of it. And it's not just UT. This isn't specifically to UT Austin, although I think they're one of the more egregious perpetrators of this kind of lack of accountability and just complete disregard for student well-being. But it's universities all over, right? And look, for any international applicants like juniors, sophomores in high school, like like form 4, form 5 students that are going to be applying to American universities in the future, like just understand like what it means to be an international applicant, right? Like international applicants to universities, it's all about money, right? Like they don't care about you as a student. Like they don't care about having you on campus. Like they might promote you as like we have 75 countries represented like in their diversity brochures or like publishing materials, but at the end of the day international recruitment is all about money. Full stop, right? Like The other thing is too, is like, especially when it comes to public universities and UT Austin specifically, like there is no entitlement to admission spaces for international students. Like understand at UT and in the state of Texas, there's a state law that says 90% of our student body has to be Texas residents. And that's because public universities like UT or like the University of California system, they receive taxpayer dollars that subsidize that education. And so public universities are first and foremost accountable to Texas residents, and secondly, to out of state students living in the United States. And so international students, they don't have actually a right to apply or gain admission, right? But that doesn't mean that like it's okay for a university to say like apply, like we'll take your application fee and then like not evaluate your application and give no explanation as why, or like reach out if there was an application item missing at some point prior to the admissions decisions being released, so that way you could address that problem. It's just to say that like when UT Austin enrolls only 2% of international students, that's in part because they have an obligation to Texas residents to, as the flagship university in the state, to provide an education first and foremost to Texas residents. So like as an international student, just like understand like what position you occupy within this broader landscape of college admissions. There are some universities that love international students because they love when you pay $50,000 or $60,000 a year as international tuition. Ohio State, if you want to read something, read about Ohio State's recruitment of Chinese students. It's like skyrocketed in the last 10 years as China's geopolitical prominence has raised in recent years, and they have an emerging middle and upper middle class. And so there's public universities that love to recruit wealthy international students. The last thing I'll say is there is another point of confusion. I get this question all the time, and like I have families that even want to like hire me for my services. They're like, Kevin, we've read this policy where if I'm an international student and I get only $1,000 worth of scholarships directly from the university, then I qualify for in-state tuition, which would amount to about $100,000 scholarship. And I have families that ask me like, oh, like we'll pay you if you can help us get this like scholarship. And I tell them, I'm like, you're not going to get a scholarship to UT Austin. You're just not. Like, you're not going to get $500. You're not going to get $1. Like, even to enroll at UT Austin, you have to provide a proof of finances that literally shows like how much money your family has in their bank account and if you can afford the education. Like, international students, for the most part, especially at public universities, they're really not at flagship public universities. They're not set up to provide financial aid for international students. Again, these are American institutions that are subsidized by federal and state taxpayers, right? So like they don't have an obligation to give money to international students. Again, it's not a right, it's a privilege to enroll at these universities. So it's just something to always keep in mind. I always remind myself of that whenever I've lived outside of the United States for over 7 years now, and I always remind myself that like it's a privilege for me to be in a given country. For example, right now in New Zealand, and it's not a right. So just like understand that, and also understand that like there are some universities that are need blind that don't consider your ability to pay, and there's even a handful like Harvard, Yale, Amherst, 2 or 3 others that will provide your full financial need if you're an international student. But those universities are few and far between. They're not at public institutions. And with this $1,000 or more like scholarship qualifying for in-state tuition, like that's not going to happen at UT Austin. That might apply for some smaller public universities like University of Texas at Tyler, UT Rio Grande Valley, some of like the satellite schools in the Texas A&M system. I'm not sure. I don't specialize in international admissions, but it's just if you're a younger student or family watching this video, like understand that if you apply to UT Austin, like you have to be able to pay for it. Like there's just no way around that. And I have that conversation so many times. It's super disappointing. I know it's discouraging. It absolutely does not excuse UT for canceling applications without explanation. Like it's just, yeah, if you watch my previous 2 videos, like you can tell I'm just fed up with this. Just I've been working in and around college admissions for 10 years now, and like there's just so many just like basic errors that universities make that just absolutely demolishes this facade that the process is fair, that they're like experts and they're like concerned about their students. It's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And I've not seen any other more obvious instance of this than just like dozens of applications that like had all of the boxes checked that was like under review for the last 4 months, 3 months, and that I guess 4 months, yeah. And then have it canceled. So it's just a lot of words of warning here. And again, I find myself now for the 3rd video in a row just like apologizing on behalf of the universe, because you're never going to get an apology or an explanation from an institution, because universities, they simply don't care about you.